for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Council members Lennon.
Here.
Martin.
Here.
Pollica. Piana.
Here.
Mayor Coulter.
Here. Thank you. We do have a quorum this evening. Next item of business would be the approval of the agenda. What is the council's pleasure on the agenda this evening?
I would move that we approve the agenda as presented.
I support.
Moved by Martin and supported by Piana. Any discussion? Sherlyn, call the roll.
Sorry. I'm getting there. Council members Lennon.
Yes.
Martin.
Yes.
Piana.
Yes.
Mayor Coulter.
Yes, thank you. The agenda is adopted. Moving on to presentations, we have several presentations this evening. The first one, a presentation update from our Ferndale Public Schools, and I see Amy Butters from our, and I think she's going to introduce the newest member of our community.
That's correct. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
I'm Amy Butters. I'm here representing the school board. And I'm very happy to introduce our new superintendent, Blake Pruitt. And he's here tonight to meet you all. And he's on day 8 or 9 on the job. So I know you'll be kind to him.
Day 10 is when kindness stops. My name is Blake Pruitt. I'm new superintendent. Just wanted to take the opportunity to meet everybody and introduce myself. I'm looking forward to working with this organization as well as many different organizations in the community. Kind of one of my goals as superintendent is to really foster that community school sense, because there's a lot of great things that we can do as combined entities for the benefit of all the children within the area and within the district. So I look forward to working with each and every one of you, and if at any time yourselves or any of the community that's present need anything from the school, please feel free to call or stop by any time. My door is always open. So
But you don't even know your phone number yet, do you?
I have no clue. It's 586 something 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 something, and I don't have cards yet. But that's I was told day 11 is when cards show up. So
any questions or?
Welcome aboard.
Yeah. Very happy
Welcome.
you're here, Q.
great to be here.
Yeah, great to see you. You'll learn this as you work with us, but one of the goals we adopted as council is to forge better relationships with the other entities in town, including the school. So we look forward to your arrival and to working with you. And good luck.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Have a great evening.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Anything else, Amy?
Of course, I do have a few other pieces of information I thought that the council would be interested in knowing about that's going on in our schools. Of course, it is the summer, so we've got some summer school going on, and we've got some construction work going on in some of our buildings, and so there's lots going on in the district, but it is a little bit quieter than usual. But I wanted to let everyone know that enrollment is starting for Oakland County residents grades K through 9. So, and I do know that number. It's 248-586-8686 if there are people out there who are interested in enrolling their children in Ferndale schools. Of course, Ferndale Schools is one of our big points of pride is our marching band. And if there is a way that you would be interested in supporting our marching band, Dino's Restaurant is having a fundraiser tomorrow night. So if you go and dine at Dino's tomorrow starting at 5 o'clock, they're having open mic. So even if, you don't play an instrument, you can still come and do some open mic, I suppose. Some part of the proceeds will go to the marching band. So that's tomorrow night. There is, just starting today, kids in grades, I think 5th through 8th, grade are starting some summer band and summer orchestra. It's kind of like a camp, and they come to the school and they do some rehearsing for 3 weeks. It just started today, and so they are having a concert, and I wanted to let you know about that concert, which is Thursday, July 31st at 7 o'clock. So that'll be some of our kids doing a little bit of summer music, which is a really good thing for our kids because our teachers have found that the kids do better about their practicing over the summer if they actually have something to practice for. And so that's something that's coming up in a few weeks. And lastly, I just wanted to let everyone know about a new program we have going on at the high school, Ferndale High School. It's the Ferndale Schools Secondary Honors Program. And we have some kids that applied for this program. It's a pilot program. And about, I think, 40 kids received a notification just, I think, about a week or two ago that they were accepted into this program. And it's a new program to try to help the kids, get ready for college, basically. And the first assignment, they do have an assignment over the summer, so they're assigned to read Walden by Henry David Thoreau. So I don't know if any of you would be, have any memories of reading Walden as a kid, but those kids are going to be doing that in preparation for the honors program. So that's something that's going on. So there is still learning going on, even though we're in the middle of the summer. So that's what I have for you tonight. Any questions?
Excellent. Anyone have any questions of Amy? Thanks
Hey,
as always
thank you
for
very
coming.
much.
Thank you. Thanks, Amy. Our next presentation is going to be the June Beautification Award winners. And who is presenting for our Beautification Committee? Good evening, ladies.
Good evening. Hi, Mayor, Council. Okay, we finally have our June winners, and we'd like to encourage everybody to nominate your neighbors. We have been getting more nominations this year from neighbors, so that's really cool. We'd rather not pick them out ourselves. We'd rather have the neighbors do it. And the nomination forms look like this. You can't miss them. And they're going to be they're at Kulik Center and City Hall and at the DPW. Or if someone wants to nominate, they don't have the form, they can send us the information to our email address, which is ferndalebeautification@gmail.com. So, and another thing we wanted to mention is we are going to have our perennial exchange this year in September, so it's not too soon to start thinking about it. Mm-hmm. That being said, Anna's going to talk about the winners.
Excellent.
Okay.
Good
These are the
evening.
June winners. We have 4, 1 from each quadrant of Ferndale, and then 1 commercial also. Okay, this is the Northeast winner, 274 East, got to get this straight, East Drayton. As Rod Harris lives there. He's lived there since 1990, and he's done all the work himself. He's even moved all those huge red stones himself, too. Those slabs have got to be many hundreds of pounds. Okay. The landscape colors actually complement the house, too. It's the color on the photo doesn't even do it justice. Rod says that since the lot was really, really tiny and he wanted trees in the front, he managed to plant 3 big trees, but they are columnar in stature, and so he got a purple beech, which has got to be 30 feet tall already, and a Scotch pine, and another columnar white spruce. And that's along with hydrangeas underneath the bay window and a Japanese maple. Lots of play of color and textures, and it's really worthy of a garden tour, I think. He is going to have a pool installed in the backyard, too, and he's making his own filter system, which is something that he's very good at. So that's that one. The second one is 306 West Camborne. This is owned by Anne Marie Pławanski, and she has lived there since 2004. It's a corner house, and that in itself is really a showstopper, but she's got a huge garden all the way along the edges of it. Here's one part that you can see. She has a hedgerow, which is kind of interesting because the bushes are not connected, and usually in a hedgerow they are, but this way she gets more breeze coming through on a small lot, and fewer animals also, which is a plus this season, I think. There are little surprises all over that place. I've not even seen the backyard. We're about to be invited soon, I think. The third one, Andrew Frigan is here. Only we've been playing phone tag. He is at 277 West Hazelhurst, and he's lived there for 3 years, correct? Kind of inherited some of the landscape design, but he's put his own spin on a few things. He's got what you see in the foreground is the easement with flagstone on it. It's really very, very nice, very welcoming, with lavender and hostas. And I'm glad you're here because I don't know what that plant is right in the front, and you've got a whole bunch of them. Do you know what they are?
I'm not positive. There's a number of tiger lilies, and as you mentioned, hostas and lavenders everywhere. There's a yucca.
Okay. Okay. Anyway, a little added entertainment. Okay, there are gardens within the gardens. I didn't even see the backyard. But when you look at the garden, you see it as a whole, but as you walk along the meandering paths in front, you find many other little niches that are really quite pretty.
That's very nice.
Very nice.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And, here's another one, another version of it. Okay. And the last residence that I'm talking about is 1787 East Hazelhurst. It's owned by Julie Apfelblatt, I'm sorry. And she's lived there for 18 years. She has, I think, a double lot. It looks even larger than a double lot. The front gardens we saw the first time, and that was all we ever saw until we came to deliver the sign, and we'd already taken the photos. The backyard is unbelievable. But anyway, in the front gardens, she doesn't have any grass at all. She has wood chips, and it looks more like soil than wood chips. It's not rough looking. It's very pretty. In the backyard, though, it's just spectacular. She spent the last 5 years working on the backyard, and I don't have any photos of it, but I can tell you, it is a huge expanse. It looks like a park, and she's got stands of river birch back there. She has Bradford pears back there, not just one, not three, but more. But they're all really far apart, too. So they have room to spread and grow. She has Carl Forster grasses, which are very tall. She has vase-shaped hostas and a lot of rhododendrons. This one is really worthy of a garden tour also. And she has taken upon herself to buy all of these plants and put them and transfer them to her home in a smart car. All the way down from Eastern Market down I-75, I can just picture it. Okay. That's the front of her home. Just doesn't do it justice. And the commercial winner is 177 Vester M. Brew, owned by Dean Bach, who also owns Dino's. And he's been at Dino's since 1999. Now, this hasn't opened yet. This is opening in August. What we noticed about this is the clean lines, and Vester, the location of this is really a short little street, and there's not a lot there. So when you look at this, it really stands out. It has new bushes, but they're separated so that when they do grow, they've got room to grow and they won't have to be transplanted. I think that's about it. Did I miss anything? Anybody? Okay. That's it.
No, Annie, thank you for the work of you and your group, and those are
Thank you for your patience.
five well-deserving winners. Thank you for bringing
If I
those.
may, particularly through the chair, the Embrew property, I think, is very distinctive because it sits between a property that is commercial and transitioned into residential, and they really successfully manage that flow, and I appreciate the effort to do that. So,
Yeah, very nice. Thank you. Thanks to everybody on the beautification committee. Before we get to our final presentation, which is the parking update, I noticed that our county commissioner, Helene Zach, is here, and just in case you have a time crunch and can't stay for that, I'll give you an opportunity to come up and tell us what's going on in Oakland County.
I appreciate that. First of all, I want to invite everybody to the annual budget presentation. It's this Wednesday night where Brooks Patterson and his team will present the budget for the upcoming fiscal year. And if you don't want to drive to the county, you can always watch it webcasting, www.oakgov.com. One of the things that I'm really excited about with the webcasting is we're now going to have our agenda posted with the webcast. So if you're interested in one item, you don't have to go through the whole meeting. You can go to the agenda item, click it on, and watch that. And this is coming soon, so I think it's much more user-friendly. It's an update that we've done in our webcast contract. I do want to remind people that SEMCOG is having non-motorized plan public workshops. The one in Oakland County is Tuesday, July 29th, 4 to 7 p.m. It's at the Wayne State University at 33737 West 12 Mile Road in Farmington Hills. If people are interested here, what's going on with the non-motorized plan. And you can always find these workshops also on the SEMCOG website. I also want to talk about, we're working on an animal ordinance. We continue to hear from many concerned citizens about animals. I did take an animal care tour last week, and I did meet with the veterinary staff. I was very impressed with their knowledge of shelter medicine and their ideas. But quite honestly, we need to do more with our facility. It's very old. Hopefully we'll have a new facility in the next couple of years along with the new animal ordinance. That's it for this evening. Any questions? Oh, I do want to say one more thing. We are taking over, when we talk about water issues, a couple of years ago, Oakland County took over the Pontiac wastewater treatment plant and water department there, and we did outsource it to this Detroit Water, but we are actually taking a bunch of the operations back from them because they haven't done a good job. We're going to let them keep the wastewater piece, but we're going to take the operations of billing and other things. And this is significant because this is one of the private entities that is interested in the Detroit water system. And we in Oakland County have not been happy with what they've done for us. So I do want to mention that as well. Any questions?
Any questions of Elaine?
No, thank you.
No, but thanks for coming,
Thank you.
as always. Appreciate it. And our final presentation then tonight is a 6-month parking update. And Joe, are you going to introduce that item?
Yes, Your Honor. I'm here to present a parking update on the last 6 months, as well as just provide an overview of the end of the fiscal year numbers for the auto parking fund. Let me adjustment. There we go. Okay. The year-end revenues have come in. The auto parking fund did increase significantly. Total revenues for the system has generated rather $894,000 in total revenues. This is significantly above the projections from the previous fiscal year, and again, it beat the amended projections from January 2014. So I'm very pleased to be able to report these numbers. You will see a significant fee in just the Luke-related parking fees, as well as a steady performance of the building permits. As you can see, the growth has been trending up the correct direction for the last 3 years. You'll notice there was a slight dip in the fiscal year in 2013 that does encompass the original rollout year for the pay stations, for the Luke pay stations. So we did experience a slight dip right there, but you'll see with a full year of Luke's under our belt, we have significantly increased the revenues from the previous full Duncan year, which would have been 11-12. To touch on the the unrestricted net assets, we began last year at this point, we were at about 1.3. We did finish the year with an estimated surplus of $167,000. That is an estimation at this point because the final expenses have yet to be determined. We are going through the audit right now. But if everything works out as is projected by the finance director, we should be at about 1.4 million in unrestricted net assets for the auto parking fund specifically. And a little bit of data from our pay stations that we now can have because of their functionality. The total number of transactions for the entire year is about 766,000 transactions in our parking system, just in our parking lots. As you can see, a majority of our collections were Luke-related. Of the 800,000 presented here, 675 of those are just generated by the pay stations, as shown here. We did see a significant increase in credit card transactions. If you'll remember, during the first quarter of the launch, our credit card percentage was at about 19 or 20%. Last year at the update, it was trending upwards to 28, and now I'm pleased to announce we're at 37. So we are almost at a 60-40 split, which is a good sign. That means that the new functionality is being used and that we are likely meeting a demand that was not being met.
Do you know, I'm sorry, do you know the percentage of Park Mobile users in that? Or?
Yes, yeah. 80% of the revenues are Luke-related, 20% are Park Mobile-related.
20%.
And we are still considered a top peak performer with Park Mobile regionally.
Based on what, if you don't mind? Is that based on the number of users or the percentage of our mix that's using?
Based on the number of Park Mobile transactions.
So the total transactions, not the percentage of the
Yeah,
mix.
the actual total transactions. The user base here is very active and more active here than in other communities in the state of Michigan. That's according to our sales representative from Park Mobile.
Right. Thank you.
That was a brief overview of just the end-of-year financials. Now I wanted to discuss a little bit about Republic Parking. We did enter into an agreement with them in February to manage our parking operations. So with that, I wanted to kind of provide an overview about where we've come over the last 5 months with them. Really, when we signed into this contract, they focused on 3 major service areas, or core service areas, you could call them. One would be a parking lot maintenance and management program. You have your customer service program. That was very important to this decision. And then, again, the pay station management and meter teching. So I wanted to just touch on some of the new services related to parking lot maintenance that weren't being provided on a day-to-day basis. Again, I'd like to remind you that these parking lots are being managed by a parking manager and parking ambassadors every day the week is, 6 days a week. So we've had, they've done a tremendous job with cleaning up some of the loose trash and broken glass that we see, especially with our active weekend evenings. They have incorporated cleaning up the trash compactors and some of the mess around the alleys on a nightly basis, as well as the mornings after our busy weekend nights. They do go around daily to inspect for graffiti and stickers, and we get those in a plethora of places throughout our parking lots. They've done a very good job of maintaining and managing that and getting ahead of that as best as possible. And they've done a great job of working with our other city service providers, most notably and recently the flooding that we do see with our rains. They've worked well with DPW to coordinate information sharing regarding flooding, and as well with fire. We've actually had some reports of down fire lines where they've been on site where they normally wouldn't have been on site, and they were there to report those to fire. And most noticeably, is probably the improved station and parking lot signage. You'll notice, again, I showed in the opening page the standard sign package that has been incorporated into all pay station kiosks. So I'll touch on that a little bit later, but that was one of the first things they've done, and that's been we've had a lot of good feedback about that. And that speaks to customer service. So we do have an on-site presence now in all the all the city parking lots. They are there, and they do often, they're directed actually to greet customers who are approaching the pay stations and to approach customers who may look like they might have some questions that need to be answered. With that, we do have a lot of first-time users still, and so they are directed to coach and teach these first-time users, oftentimes not by doing for them, but by taking the approach of teaching them and showing them how to use it so they touch it themselves and become familiar with the station. They have reported very positive feedback from this experience. And they've more or less become a downtown ambassador to the businesses as well. As you can see in the business services, they've been asked to and taken it upon themselves to approach guests of our downtown and provide directions and other information about businesses in the downtown area. They do assist with flat tires. They've assisted with some people who've had that unfortunate flat tire in the parking lot. They're there to assist them and also help connect them to non-emergency related police issues. And what I thought was really cool is with the rainstorms, if they do see somebody at the pay station, they are equipped with umbrellas, and they go out and provide that coverage service, which is a really neat benefit to the on-site presence, again, that wasn't there before. So it's really improved the friendly customer service feel that we do have down there. We have an active, engaging customer service presence where there was none before. To that point, the city manager's office has received several phone calls from businesses and customers who have been very vocal about their positive customer service experience. And actually, last week, I just received a letter that I did share with City Council that had very glowing remarks about a customer service transaction with Republic. And again, building on that, they also provided the dedicated dispatch center. So we do have a dedicated phone number, which you saw in that picture of the kiosk. Customers can call with any questions 24 hours a day, 6 days a week. We do not collect on Sundays, so it's Monday through Saturday. And they also have a dedicated email system, so people can email mobily, which they do receive some hits on that. Interestingly enough, our average monthly calls have only been 28 since the launch of the dispatch center, which is much less than I had anticipated in the beginning because it is a new service that we were introducing. If you compare that, that measures out to approximately 360 estimated for the year. And if you divide that by the 766,000 transactions, you're looking at well less than 1% of our transactions actually resulting in a need to call the dispatch center. I think that does reflect the on-site presence of our staff being there to help customers and show the proactive customer service management style that we're able to do.
So if I may, through the chair then, did we respond to a correspondingly, decrease in calls to the city manager's office over parking then during that time?
Virtually, there have been no customer service calls directed to the city manager's office. We have received more compliments than concerns directed to our office.
Fantastic. If we only have gotten 28 though at Republic, where do they all go? Do you think that's just resolved on site? I
think there's a lot of learning curve, and I think the on-site presence of the customer service staff, they're there to mitigate a lot of those problems before they occur.
Okay, great.
They also, I did neglect to tell, they also re-established with our staff, Michael Larry, they redesigned the parking brochure and made it much more simplified, much more user-friendly. We've received some great feedback on that as well. And that brochure also has provided instructions on Park Mobile as well. So.
Thank you.
Also, interestingly enough, the median time per day, we find that it's 4:50. That means that we are getting just as many calls before 4 o'clock in the early afternoon than we are in the evening. Again, I think we all expected with our busy evening hours that we'd get some evening calls, and the tilt would be more that way. But the data says that's not the case. Republic does send us call logs that define what lot, what kiosk, what the nature of the call was, and what the resolution was. They do that either weekly or monthly. It's up to our office. But it is included in the monthly report. And not so surprisingly, the busiest call day of the week is a Friday. And finally, the meter tech services. This is more the mundane management of the system, but this does need to be happening. This is I'd say the daily management of the system is measurably improving the system's performance. These are just some various activities that are done every day to each station. Because these stations are smart and able to communicate to our office, it is very important that we can maintain them for the first time. Prior to this, the Duncans had no communication mechanism, so if they were not performing or if they were failing, if they were off, we wouldn't know. We would just know if we happened to collect it that day and stumble upon it. So with that knowledge it's incumbent upon us to staff the management of the system and be proactive and maintaining it. Again, a few more stats for you. The kiosks, again, that's an example. I wanted to make sure everyone saw what the new standard looks like for the signage. But you'll notice since they've taken over, we have significantly reduced service calls for out-of-order equipment. So you'll notice the 34% decrease in coin jams, the 25% decrease in bill jams, and 99% decrease in low battery alerts. Again, these are all reports that we do receive from Republic regularly or on demand. I wanted to just touch again to get to know your station. You do have a lot of information on there, but the information is available. You have your lot number, your kiosk number, so if you do have a problem, you do need to call the dispatch center. You can find your lot and kiosk right there, and that helps them pinpoint your location, and they can send a tech right over to you to help you out. You'll also notice the parking rate hours, the parking rate and the parking hours are located right here. That was a voiced concern by several people before this. We've now addressed that concern, and we've had positive feedback about that as well. And again, right in front of here, we have the contact information for any customer service needs that they will have. Moving forward with Republic Parking, I do want to introduce to council that the city will be looking to recommend incorporating collection services with Republic Parking. Our collection services with the install of the Lukes have gone down from a daily task to twice a week, only during the morning for 3 hours. And that is currently the collections process right now. So what we'd like to do is just absorb that minute task into the services of our ambassadors, and we will redeploy the DPW collections hours towards more core public works oriented services. We're also looking to incorporate the existing parking enforcement officers into a new program with Republic Parking, where Republic Parking would be designing the schedule. We're creating a shift plan and a shift schedule for parking enforcement. They would be now in charge of overseeing the parking enforcement program. Part of that proposal will, again, recommend incorporating the existing PEOs into the program to ensure that there's no job loss. Secondly, we'll be looking to increase new staffing to meet the busy demand of our downtown parking program, as well as they will be asked to design and implement a residential parking program based on industry experience and specifically the needs of the Ferndale system. The two ways to tackle that will be with increased staffing and actually staffing appropriately, and two will be leveraging technology. We imagine in the future bringing forward a LPR, license plate recognition technology to fit our vehicles that will enable us to auto chalk. So you won't have people walking the streets anymore chalking tires individually. The vehicle will drive by the street and take time-stamped photos of each vehicle, and they will just be able to go on beats and understand whether a car has been there exceeding the amount of time.
Joe, question on that. Are both of those services that you need to come to council in the future to recommend that we add, or just, were you just talking about the collection services?
The collection and parking enforcement will both be taken to council as part of a comprehensive addendum to the existing contract that was signed in February. Okay. So it will be just an addendum expanding the scope of management.
And any more cost?
Pardon?
Any more cost?
There's pass-through operations cost, and then there are the general incentive bonus costs for enforcement. Which
so what you're going to propose in the future is that the overseeing of the parking enforcement officers will be handled by Republic and will not come over the police chief's domain anymore.
Correct, but the police chief will still have to deputize those officers.
But that's a discussion yet for us to have.
Right.
I am just asking right now.
I haven't come to council.
This is more of a discussion to let you know that I will be introducing this and be bringing forth a recommendation for you in the coming months.
Okay. Okay.
If I may, through the chair,
please.
One more comment. I'd encourage you, I think this is great, you've got a great story to tell here, but I would also maybe modify that story to look, because this is additional expenditure council's authorized, that we frame this in a manner of an ROI based on that expenditure. I think it's early, and I think you're reporting really good news here, and I think you need more time to accumulate that. But for future reports, I'd frame that in a manner that the expenditure was kind of worth the effort and the additional work here as well. So, like I said, future reports, I'd encourage you to frame it in a manner of a return on the investment that we've made.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. Through the chair,
yes.
If I may. I would like to also build off of that. I am surprised about the additional services that we are receiving as supplemental services to the downtown. And these services are, which I saw in your presentation, and while you were presenting, I went back into the original contract that we approved in February, and I don't see a mention of these services that's provided as part of the contract. And these supplemental services are graffiti removal on our signage, trash cans, walls, and electrical boxes, or doing litter control, greeting customers and generally in our downtown rather than greeting customers as part of parking. That's sort of where the ambassador hospitality service we're getting from this vendor is where I would see the difference between what is traditionally provided in downtowns as a hospitality ambassadors program, because those are standard across downtowns across the U.S. And so for the fact that we're getting more than what we had budgeted for and is getting in our contract. And then providing directions and info to downtown guests above and beyond what they need to do for parking is pretty amazing to me. So to me, those are the benefits that we're getting and telling the story of these supplemental services that the city and the DPW cannot provide. The only question I have is, do we have any duplicative services that we have with the DEA with the worry-free contractor that is providing similar type of supplemental services, because they do a lot of the landscaping? Are they providing cleaning and tidying up in areas that are not parking lots?
I can't speak to the scope of that contract with the DDA, but I believe their focus is generally on the landscaping
Is it
of the city and not the actual lot maintenance.
Not litter control or graffiti removal?
But we have been in communication with the DDA, making sure that we aren't providing duplicity in services.
And then the biggest question I have is, our ambassadors, our parking ambassadors, are they redirecting people and cars to go to lots that have vacancy in parking spaces as potential options for parking?
I will follow up with them and make sure to ask them.
Stacy's nodding.
This is Stacy Meisner. She's the manager of the Ferndale Pub Parking.
Yeah. The reason I ask,
Stacy, sure, yeah.
The reason I ask is because I go around on Fridays and Saturday nights to see what available capacity is, and there's some lots that have 50 or 60 empty spaces in them, and we're not filling them.
Yeah, traditionally lots 1 and 2, which are on the north side, northwest of 9 and Woodward, behind Treat Dreams and where Boogie Fever used to be. We direct a lot of traffic over there because they don't fill up. They very rarely fill up except maybe during special events evenings. So whether it's myself or I have my 2 employees out there, we're a small operation here, but we're pretty strong out there too. So we do direct people over there. I direct people even from the lot behind Rosie's, the West Troy lot or lot 6, which, you know, I tell people as they're circling, and that's one of the very first lots to fill up. I say, you know, if you don't mind walking an extra block or 2, guaranteed there's tons of parking just on the other side of 9 Mile. And we always use points of reference like Boogie Fever, or what used to be Boogie Fever, now Twisted, or Twist, and point out just on the other side or just north of the B-Dubs lot, there's plenty of parking. So that's one of the things we do.
If I may, though, I mean, I think it's environmental and situational at best. Currently, I agree with you. It's primarily empty because Twisted Boogie Fever is still closed for innovation. Once Twisted opens, Breckenridge lot will fill up by 11 o'clock. It's historically done it every night. So anyway, just my 2 cents.
And we'll stay on top of new developments and new trends as far as the downtown lot. But as you can see, I'm happy to report that they don't just staff the system. They have hired people and told them to get to know the system and to get to know the business and the downtown footprint and to be an ambassador and not just a staff member.
Right. Well, my question then is, who was redoing litter control and removing graffiti, and was that happening at a regular cleaning schedule for the downtown? Because we obviously have the need, and our vendor is stepping up into this role as part of the hospitality programming and providing supplemental services in the downtown.
We did have graffiti removal as part of the general parking management program that was provided in-house, but we didn't have the on-site presence or the on-site management that's patrolling actively each lot location and is able to visibly see that every day. I mean, that's part of what Stacy and her team do, is their boots on the ground. So you have the operations team and the management team both being able to communicate with each other every day and to see what does need to be touched on every day.
I think to clarify that as well, too, is that it became part of DPW's list of things to do. And as you know, I mean, they stay very, very busy, so it just depended where it went on the priority list. And in this instance, this is their whole dedication is parking. And that's one of the conversations and the movement that we've made with DPW is in talking to Mr. Currington, the DPW director, is that's where they need to be, is doing core DPW services, and that's why it was a natural fit to move in this direction.
Okay.
Other questions or comments?
The only other comment I have, I think, and it's not meant as a criticism, but for just future planning, I really enjoy your reports, particularly around this. If we can get them with the agenda versus the day of council, that would be very helpful, I think.
I will definitely do that next time.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Good. Thank you. Thanks to both of you.
Thank you.
Our next item of business is a public hearing on the 2014 Sidewalk Replacement Program and Bid Award. And are you introducing? Who's introducing that item? Are you?
Matt Davis.
Excellent. I don't see Lloyd. I know he's out of town.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I would like to start off by giving a brief, little bit of background on the program, and then kind of an overview of kind of what takes place during the program. When the Sidewalk Replacement Program was originally put together, it was basically divides the city into 10 different sections. And then each year, the city goes through and evaluates all of the sidewalk within one of those sections. This year's section encompasses an area from University to East Camborne, and then from Woodward to Hilton. In the fall, we typically go through, and that's when we perform the initial inspection to see if there are any defects with sidewalk. A lot of the defects, I would say 99% of the defects that we find, when we correct those, we can improve the safety of the public as well as improve the walkability within the city. This year's program, 98% of the sidewalk flags that we have found that are defective are due to trip hazards as well as cracked sidewalk. So there is a lot of sidewalk out there that, in the last 10 years has raised or became broken and needs to be addressed. And in the fall, when we do the evaluation, we go through, whenever there is a defect, each property gets a separate 8.5 by 11 property sketch, which depicts exactly how many of each defect is there. And so that way we can keep track over the years, kind of what we keep seeing. Is there any consistency with what the defects we're seeing are? And I know I've had the chance to talk with a number of residents and meet with residents regarding questions on individual properties. And I just wanted to bring up that if somebody has a question that's here tonight, I have put a sign-in sheet back there. You can fill that out, and we will definitely get together with you and address any concerns you may have. So with that, if there are any...
So with that, I need to open the public hearing, actually. All right, so I'm going to open the public hearing. And is there anyone here from the public that would like to address council tonight on the 2014 Sidewalk Replacement Program?
Dennis Augustin, 1550 Spencer. What are the guidelines for the sidewalk program? What do you got to have that says a section has got to be replaced?
We have, actually, here's a copy.
And just stand up in the microphone because folks at home won't be able to hear you.
I do have a copy of the guidelines, the criteria right here. And then it is also, it should be included on your notice.
I don't have one. I was just wondering because I've been through a couple of them already in my residence, and it just seems like it changes as to why I have to have my sidewalk slabs replaced. Okay? One time it was because there was water gathering. Well, guess what? The next time, there's all kinds of water gathering on my sidewalk, but the slab was just uneven. That was it. Okay? But I had to pay a higher rate because I was paying for a 6-inch slab because it went through my driveway. Okay? Now, I passed through Bay City when I was traveling up north to the UP, picked up the paper, And the consensus is the same, that the state of Michigan and the sidewalk program does not know what it wants. It wants to use this as an excuse, and then wants to use this as an excuse, that there is no set standards that says that, okay, this is what we're going to go by, because this time around, this is why we got to have this replaced. This time around, this is why we got to have it replaced.
Dennis,
this is exactly what I've went through with my sidewalks.
Are you in the program this year? Are you in the program this year?
No, I'm not, but I just want to know. I mean, I think everybody wants to know.
I think
it's a mess. The sidewalk program is a general mess. Okay, Bay City was talking about that in their paper, that they were going to Lansing about this stuff. Now, I have brought it up through my sidewalks that I've had to have replaced, the reasons why I had to have them replaced, and it's costed me money. The second one made absolutely no sense because of the first one. The first one was because there was water on the sidewalk. I got all kinds of water on my sidewalk now. Okay? You say you worry about the liabilities. Well, geez, water gathers in the wintertime. There's a skating rink out there. Now, I made the comment of just raising up the flags and putting a little sand underneath them and that would take care of some of my problems, but that didn't fly.
So is your property still
I'm just,
not
I'm just questioning what are the, there doesn't seem to be a set of guidelines.
Well, I guess if your question is what are the guidelines, he's explained that we do have guidelines.
Well,
now,
yeah,
we may or may not agree with those, but there are guidelines that are published and shared with homeowners,
Dennis. But they seem to change, and it's like, okay, just like what I said, my experience, okay? And that is whatever excuse you can make up is what we got to pay for. I think that needs to be eliminated. That's what I'm getting at. And I tell you what, it hasn't happened. Okay, now I said in my travels, I picked up a paper, out-of-town paper. This is not the consensus of Ferndale either. This is the consensus of another community, a couple hours away. What I was reading in the paper, I didn't go to their city council meetings or anything like that, but it just seems like the city's sidewalk programs is generally just a mess, and there are no guidelines, and it's just something that says, okay, this is what we'll use as an excuse to get some money out of the people now.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, that's what I'm getting at.
All right. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Giancarlo Castillo, 450 East Breckenridge.
Yeah.
I have a concern also with the sidewalk. I think it was in the early spring or last fall that all of a sudden there was a blue line in one of my slabs.
Probably last fall, right? Would that have been, Matt?
Yep. Yes. I have no idea what it was. I thought they were marking the water because that's where the water lines are supposed to come into my house. Until 2 weeks ago, I got a notification saying that they want to replace that slab. Well, this slab was replaced by the city 10 years ago, I think it was, when the approaches were done. I have slabs in there that are maybe 30 years old. They are perfectly fine. This new one that the city just put in 10 years ago needs to be replaced now. I took pictures. I put my level in it. It looks perfectly fine to me. It might be off by a little bit, but it's off because of the quality of the work that it was done before. So it could be shaved if it's a little bit off, but I don't think it requires to be replaced completely.
Okay.
So I'll be happy to show you
Could
the
you
pictures that I have.
Share the pictures, but sign the list as well, because we'll come back out, right, Matt? We'll come back out and look at it again and talk through what their issue is.
The city to notify the owners that you're going to be doing that inspection, so I could take time off from work and wait for them to come and mark, not just mark, and then send me a notification that it has to be replaced. Again, the city replaced it. It's brand new in the scheme of things, since other sidewalks are way older than that. So I think the city should pay for it, because the city didn't inspect the job that was done before. So that's why maybe it's not proper. But if you're talking about replacing sidewalks, the apartment building next to me, that place was an ice rink this winter. My house wasn't. I'm just coming right now. Around the corner of the same apartment building, there's a slab that is this much off. There's no markings in that slab to be replaced. Mine is off by this much, and there's a marking to be replaced. It's not the money, because it's not a lot of money. It's just a hassle of having to do it, and it's a brand new sidewalk. So I'm happy to talk to you after.
And actually, I would be more than happy if you leave your name. We will meet with you. I will let you know that due to the extreme winter that we've had, some of the marks have worn off. So we are in the process of going through and starting to remark those, so.
Okay, so I'll talk to you after the meeting.
Definitely.
Okay. Thank you, sir, and they'll come out and meet with you. Is there anyone else that would like to address us on the sidewalk replacement program? Yes, good evening.
Todd Blankenship, 406 East Saratoga. I'm not here today to complain about how the program is being implemented, but I do want to say that with the letter being dated June 30th and the letter being required to be delivered to the clerk by July 10th seems like an unreasonably short duration, especially around a holiday when many people are on vacation. I didn't get this until after that date. So I think for future notifications that duration of time should be extended. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, first time at council.
Welcome.
Thank you. I'm sure I speak with
Tell us your name.
I'm sorry, Gary Becker. I live at 228 East Camborne.
Okay.
2 points. The one is, I appreciate the letter that you, this is Matt right here, that sent out. Okay. It says, okay, if you want to do it yourself, $50 for the permit. My question is, I mean, like, if you're having a hardship, which, knock on wood, we don't have, but a lot of other people may fall in hard times, but $50, by the time you have $50 and you pay for the concrete, it kind of seems like a little bit amount that's something that's already supposed to be imposed by us that we're going to have to pay for. And part of my other thing is, the letter says, long story short, if your sidewalk, and mine is a half an inch right where the sidewalk meets the pavement, or my grass line, it said it could be cut. But the notice that I got is $105. So I'm kind of, sometimes I wonder where they come up. And I agree with the last gentleman, I'm sorry, I couldn't hear his name, that came up, that maybe the next time that you do this, I mean, I've been in Ferndale since '98, you know, we love the city, my wife and I, but if you could just give us a notice saying, well, hey, you know what, we are going to come out. You mean, I would like to come out, I know my neighbor Skip, he's going to be right up next to me. We talked about this before, and we would have loved to have been here when I guess the DPW representative comes out and says, okay, well, here's why we're doing it, and here's why. And we would have said, you know, yay or nay, great, all right, or we have a concern, or we said you can voice it at city council. I guess that's about it. All right. Thank you.
Do you want him to come back out and to your property, sir?
I left my name. My neighbor Skip and I, we left our name and stuff. So I mean, we can. I'm not going to take the time, but I mean, yeah, it would be great. But we can talk offline. I'm sure about that. To have somebody come back out.
Okay.
Yes, and I would be more than happy to meet with you. One thing that I will note is sometimes there are multiple defects, and we typically code whichever defect we consider the most important to address. So sometimes there are multiple defects.
I mean, I appreciate that. It just, I mean, 10 years may seem like a long time, and I appreciate the city being proactive about, you know, trip hazards and everything else, but when a lot of us have, you know, just barely meets the criteria and it's right at the grass line, we're kind of like, really? Yeah. I mean, I understand that it's got to be done, and when we walk around the city and I run around the city, and I like to give the chief, if he's still here, props for live in such a safe city, but next to Detroit. It's, you know, there's some really egregious ones that are like 2 or 3 inches high, and I wanted to ask Matt too, like, what section is being done now? I know he can't do the whole city at the end of the summer, but next time, maybe if we're going to do it, you can bring a map of the city and say, we're going to do this quadrant or this section or right now, because it just seems like, and I'm sure I speak for a lot of people when I say, like, you're going to do us, well, I walk around the city, what about this people? And, you know, mine's only barely half inch of the corner, but I walk around the block, and there's a 3-inch mark right up there by Woodward Heights and Bermuda, so.
Matt, do we typically do the same 10 sections over every 10 years? Does that change?
Yes, basically it was set up, I believe, the most recent startup with the sidewalk program, I believe it was in 98. So basically they took and went 1998, 99, 2000, and put them in some kind of order. So then basically, once we get to the end, we start the renumbering so that it works out that it's every 10 years.
The same
same
map
route.
area
So this
again.
area was last done in 2003 because I believe in 2010. I don't know the reason, but
There was a.
it didn't go through there.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, that's all the questions there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening, sir.
Skip Cadillac, 240 East Camborne, neighbor of Gary's. I have two things. One is the 6-inch slab that's scheduled to be replaced that has 2 chips out of it, 1.5 inches wide, not even dollar bill length, and they don't go down an inch. It's 6 inches of concrete. It's not going to hurt anything. I could repair that for $118 many times over. That being said, is there a reason we are not on, like Gary's situation, where he's got a 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch rise in it? Why aren't we grinding these at a savings of 25, 35% it would cost?
And I will ask Matt to address that. And I will just say, because my neighborhood actually happened to be targeted last year, and I was surprised by the number of properties that did get grinded. A number of them do. So what is the criteria for what is eligible to be ground down versus replaced?
If it's holding water, or if there's another defect other than just a stubber, if there's another alternative defect incorporated into that flag, then we do not horizontal saw cut it. Now, if it this year we have 287 horizontal saw cuts, which basically takes and cuts it across. Last year, I believe the number was around 235 that were performed last year.
What do you determine to be the other deficiencies when the only thing being marked is the height?
Right, and that's where it could be.
You don't know if it's holding water.
Without seeing it, it could. No, it's very hard to see if it holds water. Sometimes you can because of the debris, the silt that's left over. But there could be a crack. There could be scaling. There could be holes or pitting in it. There are any number of the other defects could be on there, and that's where if there is a question with that at your specific property, I'd be more than willing to meet with you out there.
Sounds like he's coming out for your neighbor. Do you want him to make an appointment with you and have him talk to you about it?
And as far as the holes and pitting, the only slabs I have that have holes or pitting in them are the new slabs that were placed 6 to 8 years ago. And that's quality of work there. But that's all I have.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. And they'll come out and meet with both of you. Appreciate it. Thank you. Anyone else like to address council on the sidewalk replacement program? All right, seeing none, I will close the public hearing portion. We need a motion.
I would move that we approve the resolution to proceed with the 2014 sidewalk replacement program and that the city clerk be authorized to sign said resolution.
Support.
Moved by Martin and supported by Lennon. Matt or April, do we know how many people have asked for the hardship exemption to the program? Did they have to do that by that deadline as well, or do they still have time?
That will happen prior to the final approval of the assessment. So after construction, we'll go through, we'll have the actual quantities and bills, because there are people who take and pull a permit and do the work on their own. So we try and take them out of, there's a big business I know I think their bill was around $2,000. They're doing renovations to the property, so they're taking care of that. There are 46 properties that are above the $500 guideline under this project.
So
That'll be a separate notice that will go out. They'll get notice that they can, about the hardship committee. There's a hardship committee.
Yes,
that's established.
the DPW will send out a notice.
To those eligible for the hardship?
Exactly, and then that will be set up in the fall prior to the approval of the assessments.
So if I may, through the chair, if there's a resident that was responded late due to the holiday weekend and the timing of the letter, are we taking those into consideration as well and not disregarding them?
Yes.
Great. Thank you.
I also want to make one note that Matt didn't mention, but in the past, we contracted with our engineering firm to facilitate this program, but because of Matt's vast background, we can actually do that in-house, which is actually saving the resident 30% on their bill from the last few years. So we're very excited for the talent we recruited to be able to keep those costs as low as possible. So I just wanted to make that note. And also, a friendly reminder that last year, Council also directed some changes to the program, which included the fact that we now cover any sidewalk damage that has been damaged through any tree or root issue. That change still remained this year as well.
That's right. So just to clarify, so the city will handle the cost of any flag that was uprooted as a result of a city tree, which we never used to do.
Yes, city tree, yes.
A city tree,
Yes,
correct?
correct.
Right. All right, any other comments or questions of council? Sherilyn, would you call the roll, please?
Council members Martin?
Yes.
Piana?
Yes.
Lennon?
Yes.
Mayor Coulter?
Yes, thank you. The program is adopted. Moving on now to call to audience. Call to audience is a half hour now and more time if needed at the end of the regular agenda for anyone in the audience to talk about any issue that's not on the agenda, and that's just because I'll give you an opportunity to speak to that when we get to that portion of the agenda. So if you'd like to address council now during call to audience, come on up, give us your name and address, and 3 minutes is yours.
We have a second motion on here to approve the actual contract. Was that?
Did we?
Do we have another motion to make?
Was there a second?
Yeah, it looks like it was.
Excuse me, 1 second. Councilwoman Piana correctly noted that a second motion is required for our sidewalk program. Councilwoman, do you want to make that motion?
I move to approve the bid of $239,197 of Giorgio Concrete to replace sidewalk and handicap ramps from University to East Camborne, from Woodward to Hilton, and to charge the sidewalk expenses of $90,382 to account number as noted, and the handicap ramp expense of $119,966, and city sidewalk tree roots expense of $28,849 to account as noted.
Support.
Moved by Piana and supported by Martin. Any discussion on that motion? Sherilyn, could you call the roll, please?
You bet. Council members Piana?
Yes.
Lennon? Martin?
Yes.
Mayor Coulter?
Yes, thank you. That motion is adopted. Now back to call to audience. And Frank, sorry to interrupt you there. Take care of a little housekeeping here. So,
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I have 2 things tonight, and one of them is an announcement, and the other one is a presentation. First, I'd like to announce to you that my election for the state of Michigan as Sergeant-at-Arms for the American Legion. I was elected this past June.
Congratulations.
I'll be representing a lot of the veterans in the organization. Thank you. I will get with a lot of the veterans and work with them too, but again, I'm the guy that keeps an eye on my commander that's coming up this year. Secondly, I'm going to go on this history about 4 years ago, we closed our American Legion building here, and of course, you know, yourself bought the building. We sold the building to you, and then with the money that we had, we turned it over to some charitable programs, some in Ferndale here, like the Ferndale Youth Assistant, the Police Auxiliary has it, also some of the money that we had, and we spread it out dearly to the Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, whatever groups we can, because our bylaw says that we could not keep the money to ourselves, and I could not give it to the members, so we spread out the money. Also, we had we donated, especially in the city, a lot. We purchased a bench out at the Veterans Memorial there under the George W. Danick Post 330. And also the library, we purchased a flagpole, 30-foot flagpole, and we put that up there. So we were generous to get the money out. We had some equipment still left in our building, and I've been really giving it all out as much as I can. And this is probably my last one that I got left, besides the files that I got so many of. But anyway, I know, even though I live in the city of Warren, but Ferndale's been my heart, and I've been active a lot. So,
Yes, you have. Very much so.
I noticed that the city here had the police department renovated, and of course the courthouse. I'm going to do one at a time. And I had a tour by the police chief of the building, how it looked, and I was amazed at the difference of what it was from years back. Being a resident here for almost 34 years, I've seen this, and myself being an auxiliary member, so I've seen this. So anyway, we have this new flag set. It's a walnut pole. It's a spear. It's got a tassel, and of course our stars and stripes. And we had it etched on here. The flag is being donated by formerly the George W. Danek, Post 330, July of 2004. So seeing this, I'd like to see the police chief come right up here. I walked in the vestibule. There used to be a flag there, and I know it was dusty and dirty and all this and that, you know. The flag wasn't dirty. No, well, I checked it out. I saw the, you know, I thought that, okay, if they're gonna put that up, I'm gonna change it. But anyway, I came to the vestibule and I saw what it looks. It's more bigger than it was before, but maybe a foot or two. And what's missing was the stars and stripes again. And I said, what the? All right. So last week I came out there and measured. I said, man, this ceiling. Actually, I had to cut this down 2 inches. So anyway, I want to present this flag to the police chief to put on his vestibule in honor of our men, in honor of his men and women that are out and protecting the city, and also the servicemen that are protecting our country. So, Chief, I'd like to give you this to put in the vestibule, and please don't have the dust stand under the. I will help the chief take it down there and put it in the.
Frank, you've been a very generous member of the community, even though you live in Warren, and you've done a lot of great things, and this is just another one. Thank you very much. That's very generous of you. Thank you, Frank. Appreciate it. Is there anyone else that would like to address council this evening on any issue at all?
Hello, I'm Jay Spiro. I'm the owner and director of Majishi Martial Arts and Self-Defense and a Ferndale resident.
I'm Irene Petz, and I own Flip at 251 West 9 Mile.
And we would like to reiterate a letter that we sent to you and directed to the mayor, city council, and the Ferndale Downtown Development Authority last week. And I'm going to read some parts of the letter. I think all of you have seen it. It's a reaction to the proposed 360 project. And it starts, everyone agrees that currently parking after 7 p.m. many evenings a week on West 9 Mile is difficult. Having more parking would be very beneficial to businesses open in the evenings. I have attended 2 of the 3 informational meetings and have heard this again and again, that most business owners seriously doubt that our establishments can survive financially for the 18 to 24 months. There would be little or no parking available. During the construction effort, so far no alternatives have been put forward. Parking plans for our customers during the 360 construction. We wanted to make sure that this voice was heard, and actually one of the moms of one of my karate kids wrote to Christina, and I was really heartened by her response from the DDA, saying that the concerns of the businesses had been heard at the community input sessions. But then my hopes were really dashed that the council and mayor were listening and truly considering whether this was a wise way to go when in the Macomb Tribune The article said, reaction to the development so far has been positive, according to Mayor Coulter. Some are happy, some are skeptical. I'd like to say that these business owners are not skeptical. We are seriously threatened by this project, and I would like to read the names of those 40 businesses so that you know that most people in the downtown corridor are not reacting positively. 9 Lives Tattoo, Asaji Bistro, Boston Tea Room, Capoeira Mandiga Detroit, Celestial Touch Wellness Studios, China Ruby, Completely Bronzed Airbrush Tanning, Crane Optical, Dangerous Curves, Designer Retail, Detroit Lotus Sangha, Driven, Ferndale Yoga, Flip, Found Sounds, Great Clips, International Hair, Just for Us, Library Books, Lisa D's Divine Treats, Maria's Front Room, May's Bangkok Express, Megan Mitchell Salon, Majishi Martial Arts, Mishko Pizza, Mother Fletcher's Vintage, Natural Food Patch, Organic Food and Vitamin Center, Painting with a Twist, Pinwheel Bakery, La Hoste Salon, Professional Guitars, Reed Salon, Shine On Yoga, Twisted Shamrock, Candlewick Shop, Type 40 Sales, Brazen Cosmetics, and the Little Lotus Wellness Studio. We ask you to please not minimize our voice in this. We would like complete transparency, not just pretty pictures about what these lots are being sold for, what the city is going to have to pay to buy back parking spaces, what the real parking benefit for us would be if we can even survive this. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks.
I just would like to add one more thing, that I know there was a lot of time tonight spent discussing the new parking, and I was curious about why that was such an in-depth discussion if the plans are to completely take out all of our parking in the near future. That's it. Thank you.
Good evening.
Hello. My first time at a council meeting as well. My name is Christy Faulkner, and I live at 306 West Troy. I wanted to follow the previous folks who chatted because my issue is also about the 360 project. So I live at 360 West Troy, or 306 West Troy, which is right lot 6, I believe it was called today. I was not aware of that. But the lot that's right behind Rosie's. So I'm also providing a residence standpoint on this project. And I know, talking from other folks that are on my street, my neighbors, we're not happy about this proposal at all. You know, I moved to Ferndale with my partner. We bought that house about 4 years ago. And when we purchased our home, we were so excited to live in Ferndale. We love the community. We love how it's such a tight-knit, welcoming environment. You know, the shops that we have downtown are so fantastic, and I love that it's growing. I love that it's changing. As a young person, I enjoy the nightlife. I enjoy the restaurants. I love all that Ferndale has to offer. But I'm afraid that it's getting too big, and especially with this concept of this 6-story structure and however big it would be, I'm really wary of what my quality of life is going to be like. I worry about the construction. The last place I lived, there was a community center that was built across the street from my home. The dust was disgusting. I had to close my windows. I could not have my windows open ever. I'm worried about the health concerns from construction of this new proposed property. I'm worried about the noise. I'm worried about the traffic, the same things that the businesses are concerned about. What's going to happen while things are being constructed? Where are people going to park? Where are people going to go? Are all these people going to now be infiltrating my street, my neighborhood, my home?
I'm worried, what are these proposed businesses that are going to go in there? Is there going to be more liquor licenses that are being proposed and issued to businesses, more bars that are opening up, more traffic at nighttime? There's just so many unanswered questions about what this project is going to mean to the residents, and I think that there's such a blurring of the lines between the residential and the commercial properties already in our particular area that it's really scary to see what this project could bring, especially because what exists currently is not for the benefit of the residents. The noise concerns that we have been pretty much poo-pooed by council, and we've met with April. I know my partner and my neighbors have met with you, Mayor Coulter, and we've been told that there isn't an existing structure to enforce a good noise ordinance that protects our peace and our calm and our comfort in our own homes. And so what is this project going to do? If we can't already manage the issues that we have now, why are we continuing to grow and build beyond what we're capable of managing? It's just really concerning to me. And I think that the businesses have a real concern, the residents have a real concern, and this needs to be something that you are completely open with us about, and make sure that our voice is really heard. I agree, parking is an issue. People park down my street all day long. It's totally fine. I get it. I know that Rosie's lot, we call it the Rosie's lot, is always really busy because, I mean, there's a lot of traffic that's come over now that Rosie's and Public House and all of those places are built up, and they're very, well trafficked, and that's great. It's bringing life, it's bringing revenue to the downtown area, but there's got to be a different area that isn't right up against homes, that isn't going to affect our quiet in our own home. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Thank you.
House, 50 feet from my house, 35 feet. Do you know how far that is? That's about to here. So if you want a parking structure right
If you'd like to come up and address us, you're more than welcome to.
35 feet. Imagine a parking
You're welcome to either come up and address us or please let the next speaker speak. Thanks.
Hello. Chris Best, resident, business owner, 263 West Woodland Street, and owner of the Rust Belt Market. As you can see, this is a very emotional subject. I just want to take an opportunity to say that none of this should be personal, and that's being said for all the business owners and residents. I think that there's a lot of emotion involved with the proposal of this project because of what it represents. Coming from the business owner's standpoint, it's, this is the way we put food on the table. And when you start to mess with the way people put food on the table, it starts to get really emotional. And it can kind of devolve into a personal sort of thing, and I hope it doesn't get to that point. I wanted to take a little bit of opportunity to address this from the Rust Belt's point of view because of what the letter that she put out and why I didn't sign it. I don't want there to be a perception that I didn't sign it because I don't agree with everything. I agree with most of what you guys wrote. I think that it's most of it was spot on. I didn't agree with all of it, so therefore I couldn't sign it because it would be perceived that I agree with everything that was written. First, I want to thank Jake Siegel, the City of Ferndale, the DDA, for holding the public input sessions in an attempt to educate and listen to concerns regarding this project. This effort is very appreciated, and I think it should continue. My business partner, Tiffany, and I like the potential of this project. We support the mixed-use component and are excited about the possibilities. We are comforted that the developer is a Ferndale resident and has a progressive view on urban development. It will make a very large impact on downtown Ferndale, and it will be overwhelmingly positive if, big if, it is executed properly. And it does provide long-term solution for the shortage of parking during peak hours. If the Carl Walker report comes back and does not recommend a substantial net gain in parking, or if the city chooses to ignore the recommendation to add substantial gain, Tiffany and I will not be supporting this project and will most likely be against it. We have a suspicion most or all downtown businesses will feel the same if this happens. It is a tall order to ask businesses to persevere 2 years of construction with no solution at the end for parking. As I understand it, there is not going to be much of a net gain when you add in the retail space, the condos, and the tech offices. We understand the expense of paying for all of the extra spaces and the risk it presents to the city, but we believe it will pay off for the city long term. Being an entrepreneur means seeing a need that is underserved and taking a risk to meet that demand in the smartest way possible. In this way, the city of Ferndale would be sharing in that scary entrepreneurial experience we business owners live in. I believe the taxpayers and voters in the city will support your risk of adding abundant parking in the heart of the city, not just for convenience, but because most people around here know the parking problem that exists is a hindrance for growth. The risk needed to solve this problem is the path to reward. We ask all major decision makers involved with this project to remember one thing through this process. This will be part of your legacy. We believe it has potential to benefit all of Ferndale with the best kind of growth. It also has potential to become a disaster to the downtown. We hold firm to our stance that the only logical way to execute this project is to develop one lot at a time. In closing, we have much faith in Ferndale's leadership to navigate through this process with empathy and attention to detail. Thank you.
Hey, sir. Good evening.
Good evening, Jeannie Davis. And tonight I'm wearing my Ferndale Arts and Cultural Commission hat. And when you get tired of worrying about your sidewalk or worrying about parking, on Friday night, the Ferndale Art Commission is bringing back Music in the Park. That's this coming Friday, July 18th. It's free. It's from 7 to 9. You bring your chair and your blanket and sit on the lawn at the Kulik Community Center and listen to the music of Ryan Dillaha and the Miracle Men. I couldn't make that up. And they play soulful folk rock and roll. There will be hot dogs and chips and snacks and water available. A lot of people in the past, when we did this 10 years ago, they brought their own picnic baskets and bottles of wine and snacks of cheese, etc. So it's a fun evening, and you meet your neighbor, and like I say, it's free. And I know Saturday, Dan Martin and I went around and knocked on the doors of the neighbors and gave him a flyer and a letter kind of warning him as well as inviting him. And it was so nice. The ones that had been there a while said, "Oh, you're bringing that back? We love it. It's so much fun." So
Was that really 10 years ago? That feels...
It's been, I believe, over 10 years since we did that. Yeah.
If I may interject to the chair, the neighbors were really excited, and I have to give kudos to the Arts Commission because this is a new year for them. They're organizing, bringing back a tradition that people feel very strongly about, and there's just a lot of excitement about doing this again. There's no charge, family event. You guys have done a great job. So.
Yeah, I'm excited. And also, I'd like to thank Jill, because this is not part of her job, but like even tonight, she dropped in on her meeting and how many tables do you want? Where do you want them? How many trash containers? She'll be there that night to help us out. So she's totally going out of her way to help us do this.
So this Friday, 7 to 9 at the Kulik Center lawn area.
Right. And we also, well, no, I'm not going to talk about that because that's not legal. We'll see you there.
Well, now I'm intrigued.
Oh. Paul Kish, 707 West Hazelhurst.
Good evening, sir.
April Lynch, I would like to thank your code enforcement for taking care of the shed that was out of violation. Barb, at the counter, it was a pleasure dealing with her for the Freedom of Information Act papers. Please relay that to her. And I will let this go till another time. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Good evening.
Good evening. Jake Cunningham, 246 Withington Street. I'll be very brief. With all due respect to the arts that we just discussed, living on Withington, I am concerned about the 360 project as a resident. Like you, I purchased my home very recently and am quite concerned about the prospect of a major project happening across the street from my home. And I want to make sure there's transparency and a full disclosure about everything that's going to impact the residents, especially those who live in the areas immediately surrounding the projects, because, you know, it affects our property values, which affects the city, which, you know, it's a group effort. So I just want to reiterate that those concerns that have been brought this evening. Thank you very much, Council.
Thank you. Thanks for coming. Good evening.
Good evening. Sue Ferrari. I'm a resident of Ferndale, and I have some deep concerns about this 360 project. First concern is if you even shut down one lot, that will take all the people that are in the one lot and flood them into the other lot. Because people in our town don't want to walk an extra block to go to their favorite restaurant or bar. So it doesn't make a lot of sense to me why you would even shut down one lot. To me, it makes more sense to develop an area like we've been projecting, the Wild West of 9 Mile, further out to draw bigger town boundaries, bigger DDA area. Areas such as the Save-A-Lot. Ferndale Foods is a rumor that they are going out of business. That's a huge lot that could be developed with storefront, office space, parking, and the like that this city is kind of imagining. But to build it right on the back of the historic center that the DDA has been striving to do for many years is really disconcerting to me. This is a cozy town, and if you put a monstrosity surrounding this historic event, it's going to diminish exactly what we stand for. And then the other portion is this loft story about 8 to 10 stories. Now in the paper, the mayor was quoted 8 to 12 stories. That's what's in the paper. You can look at it yourself. I had some concerns about that on several aspects. The lofts here that are on 9 Mile couldn't get sold. They're rented. So how do we presume that 100 to 120 lofts are going to get sold? What happens when these people have their pets? I know this is kind of funny, but most people that live in lofts have pets. Where are these pets going to be walked and urinated and defecating in our area where we live? Because there is no plan in the green space, in the parking area for those pets. If we have an 8 to 10, 12-story building, is our fire department equipped to put out a fire in that kind of building? Do we have a ladder truck that tall that could handle a 12-story building? Okay, my point is we'd also need enhanced police services that we've cut back on. How is that going to impact our city? We add all these people and we say we want more foot traffic. But the foot traffic that we're creating with this kind of business is not the foot traffic that's going to enhance our retail and our businesses in the downtown area. This foot traffic is going to be coming into their homes and going out to the restaurants and bars later in the evening. They're not going to be shopping. And I want you to really consider that when you're walking in downtown historic Ferndale, not smothered by some monstrosity on either side of it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. I don't know if
Your signs are getting bigger.
Well, pay me some attention. Sherry Wells, 315 West Troy. Speaking of walking and biking and SEMCOG and all of these other things, the Green Cruise is less than 4 weeks away. Saturday, August 9th, and some of you need that much notice because there's a 42-mile bike ride that is a sightseeing type ride all the way down into Detroit. I think its terminus is Belle Isle, and then it comes right back. Councilwoman Piana can tell you about that. She's been on it. At 9 o'clock, they start with a 22-mile Birmingham ride on the bikes. At 10 in the morning, we have a 3-mile walk and roll, and we call it a walk and roll because people with wheelchairs are invited to come along. Someone did last year, and this year we're going to walk it ahead of time to make sure we find the best curb cuts available for that. At 1 o'clock is a 4-mile family bike ride. And then in between, we have the noon is the Green Celebration Parade. And this year, we're trying to make it the zaniest Green Cruise Parade we've had yet. So costumes, turn your little red wagon into some kind of a float. In fact, the costumes flyer here shows costumes on adult people, not just children. And then from 10 to 2, we have the Green Street Midway, I guess is what it would be called, with booths, children's crafts. We're going to bring back that people-powered whirligig thing that really went over well last year. Free healthy food and beverages, educational and vendor booths, and it's just a very, very pleasant evening. We liked the location that we had on East 9 Mile. It felt like a party, like a house party or a block party. So we've got that again. And this is giving you a little less than 4 weeks' notice, but you can start practicing for your 40 miles or 20 miles.
Thank you. Look forward to it.
Or your 3-mile walk. There's no excuse. You've got something for everyone.
Thank you. Michael Leary.
Hello, just want to remind people that the Woodward Dream Cruise is a week after. It's August 14th, 15th, and 16th, and for more information, go online at FerndaleDreamCruise.com. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening.
Hi there, John Murray, resident, owner of Modern Natural Baby. Just a few things. I like Jake Siegel. I like his vision. I like shiny buildings. I can't help but root for him, but on the other hand, it's everything that I don't want. I mean, as far as everything, as far as growing and what my Ferndale is going to look like. But I love his vision. I love how big it is. The one thing I have a problem with is it's too big, right? His vision's too big. He doesn't want to just take the Troy parking lot. He wants to take a Withing parking lot, both sides. To me, it sounds like he's just being greedy. And there's a part of me that's thinking that, they say, don't go in our backyard. And I think that's kind of where I'd like to see this go, just for the fact that I'm looking out for the community and I'm a resident. And I understand even though having parking doesn't really help, extra parking doesn't really help Modern Natural Baby, because we said before we don't really have a parking problem during business hours. So, but I understand the greater picture. I want to see Ferndale prosper and be better. I just think it's a little bit too greedy. I think he's asking for too much. And I don't know if you can do this without asking too much. But when you say, let's get it done in 2 years, I would rather have him do it in 2 years than 4 years, because what happens is, what you're telling me, is that Ferndale's closed for 4 years instead of 2 years, because there's still construction going on, right? And people start talking, or 3 years, or whatever that is. So it's extending that. Now, I don't want to go out of business. I don't want other retailers to go out of business because nobody can go visit us. But having said that, it's I like his shiny buildings. I like his vision. It's just, it doesn't look like, I would rather look out for the community we have now than the future community, which we don't know it even exists. I mean, do we know that everybody's going to flock and this type of IT business is going to, all these people are going to come? The one thing I wonder is, why didn't Jake get his own office building? He didn't. He did it in his own house. And so I'm thinking, if he did it in his own house.
He has an office building, sir.
But it's,
it's in Ferndale.
No, his office is in Royal Oak. I'm wrong. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. Yeah. I didn't mean to. It's just, look out for us now, because we're real. We're here. We've already jumped in. We took a leap of faith. And so just look out for us. That's all I'm asking. And again, I didn't sign that because I didn't know. I don't want to be disrespectful to you guys. I don't want to be disrespectful to the DDA. I want to, but one great thing I am seeing out of this is all the business owners are getting together. And it's magical, and I think we could do some really amazing things because we do have a voice, and I think we can do other things with that voice. Thank you.
Thank you. We are at over 30 minutes now of public comment, but I know there's a lot of folks here, and so if there's a couple more folks that want to get in on this before, and we'll reopen call the audience again at the end of the meeting as well, which won't be very long. But yes, good evening.
Hi, my name is Amy Romer. I'm a resident. Yep. I'm at 286 West Breckenridge. I've lived in Ferndale for about 20 years now. I don't make too many appearances here. When we had the zoning issue a few years ago, I think it was 5-6 years ago, I did speak. I'll keep this really short. I wasn't going to speak tonight because I feel like I don't know enough about 360. I've read a few things. I am neighbors with Jane Sue. There's two things I do want to address, however. One, your speaker just mentioned about not wanting to be disrespectful. Well, I think this is all about democracy here. We are not being disrespectful by questioning this plan. I believe the little bit that I've read about it indicates that the group that's developing 360 has a one-year exclusive, is it a one-year exclusive
Yes.
agreement? I don't understand exclusivity in government, especially if bids were not put out and the plans were not developed prior to that, so I question that. A really recurring theme in what everyone has mentioned tonight, even Chris from the Rust Belt, he's gone already, but everyone else, is that there's something very special and essential about Ferndale, and it's not clear that this plan is going to live up to what Ferndale's promise is. And after I found out about the event, or rather the plans, I talked to Jane Sue, and I just did a little personal cruise up and down Woodward and a little bit on 9 Mile. There is a lot of empty retail space in Ferndale. And 9 Mile and Woodward is not all that the Ferndale town is about. We have a whole area over at 9 Mile and Hilton that has a lot of empty space, and the whole road of Hilton from 8 Mile to 696. And I think one of the essential things for developing Ferndale is to connect all these ends of Ferndale. And west of, was that Planabon there, all the way down to Pinecrest and beyond. So this is a little bit of an emotional response, but I felt it was really necessary to say that we're not being disrespectful by questioning what this process is, what's going on, and I don't think that Ferndale wants to turn into another Royal Oak. And Royal Oak has its fair share of brick and glass and lofts and empty retail space. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, we'll do one more speaker now, and then we'll reopen call to audience at the end of the agenda, which, like I said, won't be very long anyway. But Chris,
Thank you.
good evening.
Chris Johnston, 202 West Maplehurst, and one of the owners of Woodward Avenue Brewers. I first just want to say my wife and I have lived here for 17 years, and we've seen a lot of passionate discussions about a lot of subjects in Ferndale. And one of the things I really love about this city is I can find people on both sides of every passionate argument that I've seen that I really respect and admire. So, and this is no different. So, I'm sure it will be figured out what is best for the city sooner or later, and I respect that. But the reason why I'm here is to kind of like Jeannie Davis talking about the music at the Kulik Center on Friday night. We're going to have music outside at Big and Whiskey this weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Incidentally, the same band that's playing Friday night over there, if you missed them, will be playing Saturday over on our side. So, and I don't think we're doing anything illegal on our side, unlike hers. So, that's
then I'm going over there.
Yeah. So anyway, it starts at 6 o'clock on Friday night and goes through the weekend. Got lots of great food vendors, music. Obviously, there's beer, all kinds of things. It's free. It's family friendly, I would say. And this is the 5th year, I think, that we've done it. And that's this Friday the 18th, Saturday the 19th, and Sunday the 20th. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. All right. Like I said, if there's anyone else that just has a burning comment, the rest of this agenda is very short. We'll reopen public comment at the end of our regular agenda. But moving on now to the consent agenda. Consent agenda are those items that council considers routine, and we enact in one motion. But let me read those now. Item A is the approval of the minutes of the regular meeting held June 23rd, 2014. Item B is an adoption of a resolution of support for the Smart Public Transit Millage proposal as submitted by Councilwoman Piana. Item C is the approval of the revised event dates for the previously approved special event permit for the 2014 Pig and Whiskey to July 18th, 19th, and 20th. As Chris just said, that's this weekend, as detailed in the special event summary. Consent agenda item D is the approval to pay the annual dues for the 8 Mile Boulevard Association totaling $2,500. And finally, item E is the approval of the bills and payroll as submitted by the city manager's office, subject to the review of the council finance committee. What is council's pleasure on the consent agenda?
Can you pull item B?
Item B. Move to the regular agenda, yes.
I would move that we accept the consent agenda item with the exception of the amendment to remove item B.
Moved by Martin. Is there support?
Support.
Supported by Piana. Is there any discussion, either from council or from any members of the audience, on anything on the consent agenda? If not, Sherlyn, would you call the roll, please?
Yeah, sorry, my connection keeps going in and out. Council members Martin?
Yes.
Piana?
Yes.
Mayor Coulter?
Yes, thank you. The consent agenda is adopted. Moving on to the regular agenda, item A is a consideration of the fiscal year 2015 fee schedule. And City Manager April Lynch, is that your?
It is.
Are you introducing that? Thanks.
Yes. Every year, as part of the budget process, the City Council is requested to approve the new fiscal year's fee schedule. You'll notice it's generous in pages, and so we highlighted anything that had changed. For the most part, most fees remained the same this year. I think most notable that I would like to remind council is that you will notice in the fee schedule the 10% reduction in water and sewer rates that were discussed during the budget process are in the fee schedule. I mean, they actually started July 1st, even though we're approving it today. All of these fees started July 1st. So that 10% reduction, our residents should start to see that reduction in their next cycle of bills that start July 1st. Other than that, again, most of them remained the same. We did have some increase in ambulance fees, which was based on recommendations from Acumen, which was our billing company that took state averages and found that we were significantly lower in some areas, and we felt we needed to be more in line with the national or the state average, if you will. The library did have some new additions on page 25 and 26. And we readjusted some things in our special event policy, in particular to film and video. But other than that, you'll notice most things remain the same. But I did want to call out, again, that 10% reduction in our water and sewer rates. And if there's any other questions, I only comment on things that I thought were notable in nature.
Right.
Does anyone have any questions of clarification for April?
I do. It looks like the dog licenses went up significantly, though, not necessarily for the quote-unquote altered dog, but the license for the intact dog went up $5, which is a 33% increase, as well as the altered dog after June 1st doubled. Is that governed by the county, or do we set those?
The attack dog?
What page are you on?
Not,
I thought you said attack dog.
No, I don't think we differentiate attack dogs. 6 of 33.
I don't know what an altered dog is.
An altered dog would be one that has been spayed or neutered.
Okay. What page are you on?
6 of 33. It says for fiscal year 2014, the license for a quote-unquote intact dog went from $10 to $15, $15 to $30 after June 1st, and license for an intact dog went from $20 to $30. And I know after June 1st, you have to pay those at the county, so are we governing those rates, or does that come from the county?
We are not.
No, those come from the county.
It's governed by the county.
All right, that's what I suspected. I just wanted to clarify.
Motion would be in order.
I just lost it.
I move to approve the fee schedule for fiscal year 2015.
Support.
Moved by Piana, supported by Martin. Now, any other questions, comments on the fee schedule?
I like the changes from the city clerk to the CED department for Board of Zoning Appeals and the land use master plan. Was it just because it fits better under CED versus the city clerk's office, or is it an administrative change, or both?
Mostly we're trying to change the fee schedule to be more user-friendly. So this is just another change that we have made to try to make sure like things are in like particular areas. So you'll notice I want to thank Michael Larry, who, again, redid the formatting. We're trying to make, again, as user-friendly as possible because this is a lot of information. So he helps kind of put this back together. And as you notice, over the last couple of years, we've been changing a lot of our budget processes to try to make it more transparent, easy to understand. And that was just another thing that we tried to do.
All right. Any other comments? Sherlyn, would you call the roll, please?
Council members Lennon?
Yes.
Martin?
Yes.
Piana?
Yes.
Mayor Coulter?
Yes, thank you. The fee schedule is adopted. Next item is former consent agenda item B, which is the adoption of a resolution of support for the Smart Public Transit Millage proposal. And Councilwoman Piana, you asked
Right.
to pull that.
I just wanted to pull this off the consent agenda to let people know that there is a primary coming up on August 5th, but there's also a smart bus millage proposal for cities that are part of SMART, because cities can opt out of SMART, to ask voters to approve an increase of 0.59 mils to help pay for smart bus service, of continuing service and expanding service where possible. Because over time, just like our roads, our taxes and investments in transit has also been poor, and declining property values has forced SMART to raise fares, cut staff, require concessions from employees, and reduce service in a time of increasing need. And so I wanted to let people know that this was going to be on your ballot, and that I'm supporting and expressing support for voters to pass this millage. This millage property tax would cost the average homeowner about $50 a year for a house worth $100,000. And it's a moderate increase to reflect increased costs for managing our bus system, and it's the first increase in 12 years. And so you can go, I'm directing voters to go to keepsmartrolling.com, which is the campaign website where you can learn about why it's important that we continue to invest in our bus system as well as our roads. So if you need more information before August 5th, please do that. And the City of Ferndale is obviously expressing their support of the millage so that we can provide better service for our residents in Ferndale and help them get to their jobs, help them get to the hospital down on the Woodward corridor, or wherever they need to know if they are unable to drive to get there on their own.
So is that a motion?
So I move to support the resolution and supporting the smart millage proposal.
Support. So that is moved by Piana and seconded by Councilman Martin. Any other discussion? Either by council or by members of the audience. All right, Shirley, would you call the roll, please?
Councilmembers Martin?
Yes.
Piana?
Yes.
Lennon?
Yes.
Mayor Coulter?
Yes, thank you. That resolution is adopted. Okay, so before I go to call the council, I will reopen call the audience, just in case there's anyone from the audience that didn't get an opportunity to speak or wants to speak again, in whichever the case may be.
I forgot some critical information.
I like the shoes, by the way.
Oh, thank you. Got them at the Rust Belt.
Awesome.
Important piece of information. Yeah. No, I didn't actually. There was a town hall meeting at the Rust Belt Market. For no other reason than we have a big event space and we have a lot of chairs there. So for anybody that's a resident, it's mostly for the residents at this particular, from what I understand. So any business owners that would like to attend are welcome to attend, but I think it's more for the residents to have a chance to speak their voice and be heard about their concerns or what have you. So I invite, of course, all of you guys and everybody that has a stake in this, the potential of this project. Thanks. Oh, I'm sorry. 5:30 at the Rust Belt Wednesday, this Wednesday.
But you have to wait till Saturday to buy the shoes.
There's no more. It's the one.
All right. Anyone else from the audience that would like to address council this evening? You were going to be next, but...
I know, but I want to address council, not as the police chief, but as the president of the Football Boosters Club at the high school.
Oh, I know.
I know. Every year we schlep this. Every year we send our high school football players to a camp outside of the Detroit area, and we fund that with a unique fundraiser called the Moo Poo. And Basically, what we do is we will sell you for $10 a deed for a 2-by-2 yard square of the practice football field, and then on July 30th, we will put a cow out there on that field. That would be the moo part that we talked about, and the poo part that we talked about is if the cow happens to defecate on your deeded lot, you will win $1,000. So for 10 will get you $1,000. So we have these for sale. Please, you can contact me at any time. I will have my kid go over and sell you one. 248-546-2388. You can also visit our Facebook page, which is Ferndale Eagles Nest Football Boosters, and there'll be contact information there, and we can send somebody to your house to get your $10 and get you a plot.
But not the cow.
But not the cow.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
All right, well, while you're here,
Back
anything?
as a police chief, no, other than the fact that we are now a couple of weeks into our new spaces, and although we are learning and coming up with different problems and different procedures that we hadn't thought of, we are very happy to be there, and we're very thankful to the public for creating that new space for us, and it's really awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. Christine, anything from the DDA this evening?
Thank you. Yes, two things. And thank you, Chris Best, for reminding everyone that Wednesday there is a public input session at 5:30 at the Rust Belt. Also, if you are unable to attend on Wednesday, we also encourage people to check out the information on FerndaleMoves.com or on the DDA's website, which you can find underneath our news and events section on downtownferndale.com. You can also send in your public input comments if you can't attend, but would like to express your thoughts at 360project@ferndalemI.gov. And also then on another note, in terms of the DDA, we wanted to make sure that everybody comes out on Thursday night for our outdoor movies on Bester Street. It's Get Real. We will be showing a movie with the DATC Hairspray. So the DATC will actually be coming out and doing a little sing-along with Hairspray. So it should be a fun event and night out. We usually start the movies at dusk, which is around 9-ish. But you can come out early and congregate and join in the fun with the community and hang out. We also want to thank our sponsor, Ferndale Collision, for supporting us in hosting this event as well. So thank you, and thank you everybody for coming out and expressing their thoughts, because that's the important part about what we're doing right now with the public input process. We are really trying to get everyone's thoughts and ideas and make sure that we are listening to all of that and trying to build that within a rollout of more information and planning that the city can provide to everybody.
Thanks, Christina. Matt, anything from the DPW department today? Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I thought we were done, but feel free to come on back up again.
Okay. So I'm still Sue Ferrari, and I still have a couple other questions that maybe, since the presentation has been to the city council and not to the city residents or the business owners, there's been some.
We've actually had 3 presentations.
Right,
and
but
the fourth one this week.
the initial presentation that the developer gave to you guys back in March.
Just to be clear, the developer has given the same presentation that council got to residents at all our outreach meetings. There really hasn't been that much different in what's been presented.
All right, great. So there's not been any answers that I'm aware of. And one of the big questions is, for me as a resident, is, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that once these parking spaces are developed, the city has to buy them back at a price tag of an estimated $30,000 each. How is that going to be facilitated if the city is not able to purchase other lands and properties at a lower cost? Is that going to result in a bond being issued and requested of the residents to pay for that? Mayor?
Well, this isn't a debate. I don't know where you're getting that information from, but just to be clear, this 12-month period is to sort of explore, could this work? How would it work? How would the relationship between, so none of those details have been finalized at all, all right? So just so the residents are clear, this first phase has been going out and doing now the fourth meeting in the public to hear the ideas, to hear the concerns, to hear the questions. I've heard you say and some others say, well, we haven't had any solutions yet. Right, because we're gathering these questions and concerns. We're going to give them back to the developer and the city, and we're going to see if we can address them to people's satisfaction or not. But we're still early in the process. We just entered this agreement, this 12-month period of dating this developer, if you will, to see if it will work. Nothing has been finalized, and those kinds of details are certainly still not
I think
finalized.
the developer mentioned that we were going to buy back the spots. So that's why I'm trying to figure out how we're going to buy back the spots if we're not in a position to have money to even build the structure. Is that going to be a bond issue, which really, I mean, you have to have some forethought if that's the case, that we would have to put out a bond in order to buy that back. I mean, I don't know. That's why I'm kind of asking.
Clearly, but we're not in a position today to be able to answer what the financial arrangement will be.
We're researching all of that.
Okay. So and then the other thing, if you guys are still researching, then is the city giving the lots to the developer, or is the developer purchasing the lots?
Again, to be determined.
It's kind of confusing then.
Well, I think the disconnect here is understanding the development process of what happens in each phase. And we've asked the DDA to clearly articulate what happens in each phase of the development process. And you go through with your development partner of saying, hey, what can happen on this site? What could it look like? And then you go through these phases of saying, okay, what is it going to cost? How do we figure this out? How are we going to pay for it? And so we're still in phase one of saying, what can this project concept look like? And they've said what they would like it to look like. And what we're hearing from the community is, well, the developer didn't propose a design, they proposed a concept. And so what we're hearing from is nobody likes that concept that they proposed. So we need to, and I sit on the planning commission, and so I'm the representative on city council and another voice to make sure that our hopes and dreams of what this project can be is actually realized and can match the vision of Ferndale of what we want it to be.
Okay,
so
thank
as a
you. That
community,
answers
that's what
some of
we're
that.
trying to do.
Okay, great.
So I think one of my requests for the DDA is to explain the three phases more clearly so you understand where we are along the continuum of the 12-month process. So that's part of the clarity I think that we need to make immediately as part of the outreach component.
Well, I guess and the other component is when the developer speaks, like he was speaking in Cranes Detroit, where he mentions that this project's going to cost between $50 and $100 million. I mean, those are impacts to me as a resident. If that money is going to be set somehow based on my tax base that I have to pay, I want to know that. So I'm not sure, like, there's not an, it seems like, and it could be the phase, like you're saying, Councilwoman Piana, that it's the stage that we're in, but it's like we get a little bit of information of this big project, what we want to do, but we don't have any money to do it, and then, so who does it fall on? And I think that's where some of this is coming into play. And I appreciate you answering kind of where the stages are.
Agreed, and if I could piggyback on Councilwoman Spanner, that's the risk in all this, right? It's human nature to want to jump to steps 2 and 3. But this council, as well with the DDA partners and the developer, has been very open and aggressive to want to get information in the public and engage the public in the discussion as early as possible, because that's the way to be transparent about this, right? To get information that's out there and to be able to debate it, to get feedback. And the risk of that is, yeah, we go out and we have town hall sessions, which are very crucially important to hear what the concerns are, but we don't have a whole lot of answers because of that phase that we're at to get that in. And we talked about this at the last town hall, that there aren't a whole lot of answers that are out there. The Cranes article from May tossed some numbers out there, and as you know, in print, sometimes it's reliable and sometimes it's not. We're just too early to tell at this point. It's certainly a sizable project and important enough to engage the businesses and the community early enough to be part of that process, and that's that first phase we're in. You know, and we're all anxious to get to the next, well, what's it really going to look like or what the real cost is? But we've got to let the process flow out. That's the whole period that we've had that 12-month exclusivity for, so we have the time to explore that, to find the answers, and to find out if this is the right project for Ferndale.
Right. Councilman Martin, I think what it is that when he presented, along with Derek Delacourt, the presentation wasn't a presentation of like we're just, I mean, they said it sounded like we're looking for solutions and answers and asking questions, but it was more like, this is what we want to do, and this is the time frame that we want to do it in. And we're going to rip the Band-Aid off, and we're going to do it. Well, I'm going to tell you, it sent a little bit of shock into the community about how it was presented, I guess.
I appreciate that, and I think that's why, I'm sorry, Mike, why that ongoing conversation is important.
Right.
Go ahead, please.
No, just to reiterate what you said, this is so in the infancy stages, we're not clear on what we're going to do yet.
Okay.
But when Jay first approached us, the first thing we did as a group said, got to get this information to the public. Got to have meetings, we got to let them know.
We appreciate that as a public, and we appreciate it as representatives of the people here of the city of Ferndale that elected you guys to make the right decisions based on how we feel.
We will, but
Thank
it
you.
takes some time.
Well,
Thank you.
I have to keep stressing this point. I'm sorry, but I want to stress the point of how different we're being in approaching this type of development project. Normally, in a development process, the developer is coming to the Planning Commission and submitting their site plan for review and recommendations by the Planning Commission. And and that's usually when the public first learns about the project, if you follow the normal continuum of development across the United States. And we have said that is not enough for our community. We have said, please start early, do an outreach plan that the DDA is crafting, and get feedback so that we are realizing the hopes and dreams of our business owners and residents about what development can look like in our community, because our goal is to increase the number of families and businesses in our downtown so that everybody is successful. We really have concerns to address, and which we're hearing at every outreach meeting, which is the construction phases. And I think we will have some good answers for everybody how we'll do that and address concerns as we go along. But we are definitely hearing the concerns of business owners and residents. So I want you to know you have, for me, I'm open and will meet with anybody to talk about what you would like to see. And we are the negotiators and conduit with the developer, and so along with city staff. So please, I guess I ask for some patience. Keep coming and keep giving us feedback as we move along the continuum of the phases. And we promise to be open and transparent. And I feel like we already are. That doesn't mean we can't make improvements. So that's where I'm looking for our residents and business owners to say, where can we make those improvements as part of the outreach process. And Sue just gave a great one tonight. So.
Any other public comment this evening? All right, we're going to close the public comment then and go back to call to council and Fire Chief Sullivan. Anything for nothing for the fire department this evening. All right, that's usually a good thing when there's no activity at the fire department. Matt, anything else from the DPW department this evening? All right. Sherilyn, anything from the clerk's office?
Just piggyback on the fact that there is an election coming in August. Along with the smart millage in precincts 6 and 7 here in the city, those precincts are in the Hazel Park School District. There is a millage question on the ballot for the Hazel Park School District as well. So,
all right. Jill, anything from the Recreation Department this evening?
Yes, Your Honor, just a couple quick announcements. For the second year in a row, we are teaming up with Oak Park Recreation to put on a Family Tigers trip. It'll be August 3rd, 1 o'clock game against the Rockies. Tickets are $25 per person, and that includes your transportation, your ticket, of course, and a food voucher for a hot dog, chips, and pop. Registration is available on our website, ferndalerecreation.org. To all of our senior group members that are listening, it is that time of year to renew your senior membership dues. Residents, it is $9, non-residents, $10, and your membership is good through June 30th, 2015, and your membership will put you on our newsletter list. You'll get our bi-monthly newsletters, as well as some opportunities to go on some member-only trips throughout the year. And then just a couple quick notes. We are currently registering for our fall adult softball leagues and youth fall soccer leagues. That information is on ferndalemi.gov.
Excellent. Thanks, Joe. April, anything else from the city manager's office?
No, not tonight.
All right. Dan, anything from the legal world tonight? No. Councilman Martin, anything from you this evening?
A couple things, just to reiterate, music in the park this Friday, do the Pig and Whiskey, but check out some great family-friendly music at the Kulik Center. That's at 7 o'clock. And in addition, it's not too early to start thinking about the Ferndale Pub Crawl on July 25th, the last Friday. Supports a great number of local charities. Starts at 6:30. It's kicked off at the new Twisted nightclub, which is going to be just a fantastic venue. I got a sneak preview of what that looks like, and it's just going to be gorgeous. Runs from 6:30 to 9. We've got 16 venues this year. We encourage you not to drink at all 16 venues, but it really is just a really great evening and to show off some of the local establishments that we have. So I encourage you to all mark that in your calendars. That's it.
Excellent. Councilman Lennon?
I have nothing tonight, Your Honor.
All right. Councilwoman Piana?
Nothing tonight.
Nothing this evening. I think we've covered it all this evening, so
Yeah, we did.
I don't think I have anything either. So with that, the meeting is adjourned.